Hello students. So continuing with our previous lecture on bills of exchange, now we've looked at the accounting entries, the treatment of bills of exchange as bills receivable in the drawers books and in the drawers books as bills payable. Now moving to and looking at what are the types of bills of exchange and covering the other aspects of the bills of exchange. So in this particular lecture, we will be completing the conceptual part, and then the next lecture we would be covering the illustrations on bills of exchange. So starting with the lecture and looking at the types of bills of exchange. So the first type is the trade bill, which is the most general or which is the most usable type of such bills of exchange, and such bill is drawn in order to settle a trade transaction. So with trade transaction we mean, for instance, buying of a particular good or taking of a particular service, and in terms of that a bill of exchange has been done where the payment would be done in credit after a particular and agreed upon period. So that particular bill would be termed as a trade bill, which is done in order to settle a trade transaction, and that trade transaction is a result of buying of a particular good or taking and procuring of a particular service. Then the accommodation bill. Now this bill is a little different, and for understanding this we will also be covering the example for it. So accommodation bill is used without a trade transaction. So in the case of accommodation bill, there is no trade transaction involved, but it is just done for a mutual benefit. So basically this particular accommodation bill is not drawn against a trade transaction. It is just done for a mutual benefit, and there is no goods being procured, and it is not necessary that a particular good or service has been taken in exchange of the bill which has been drawn. So for instance, let us take a look at this example. Now, if Mr. X is in need of money, he draws a bill on his friend Mr. Y, who will accept it. So basically Mr. X and Y are two friends, and out of them Mr. X needs money. So what he is doing is he is drawing that bill of exchange on Mr. Y, and Mr. Y, because he is a friend of Mr. X, has agreed to accept it also. Now this particular bill is then discounted with the bank, and bank will pay money before the due date, and the money is shared between X and Y. So on the due date, Y will be paying it to the bank and X will pay his share also. So for instance, if you say that Mr. X needed 5 lakhs, right, and he draws a bill on his friend with that is Mr. Y. So they agree and draw a bill of exchange. Mr. X draws a bill of exchange on Mr. Y worth rupees 10 lakhs. So after Mr. X draws the bill of exchange and Mr. Y accepts it, which is worth rupees 10 lakhs, such bill will be further discounted by Mr. X. So Mr. X gets the bill discounted with the bank, and the bank agrees to pay the immediate cash, which cash would be segregated between X and Y. So this must be the terms of entering into this bill of exchange, as they will have a mutual benefit, because when X is in need of money, what is the benefit that Mr. Y will be enjoying of getting into this bill of exchange? So what they decided was that since Mr. X needed 5 lakh, we will enter into a bill of exchange of 10 lakh, and this 10 lakh, as Mr. X is in need of money, Mr. X will get this particular bill discounted with the bank, and once bank, after charging a certain percentage on this rupees 10 lakh, after charging whatever the bank is ready to pay in cash, would be divided between X and Y, and on the due date, when Y will make the payment to the bank, such payment would again be segregated between X and Y. So this is how an accommodation bill is being entered, and such bill does not involve a trade transaction, rather it involves a mutual benefit. So it depends on the terms of the mutual benefit or the reasons for which the accommodation bill has been entered into, and that should result in such accommodation bill should result in a mutual benefit of both the parties, drawer and the drawee. However, law will generally not recognize such bills, and when we talk about such bills, that is the accommodation bill. So as it is not it does not abide by any law, and also it is not um, it is not in terms of a trade transaction that such bill has been drawn upon. So thus, in the law, such bills are generally not recognized. Now, what are proportionate discount charges? So we saw the discount that has been allowed, we saw the dishonoring of bill, the rebate allowed, everything. So now looking at the concept which is proportionate discount charges, and if the date of maturity of a bill falls on a date of a month within the accounting year, discounting of bill can be done without any problem. So when the date of maturity is within the particular accounting period or within the particular accounting year, discounting of that bill can be done and easily accounted for, and as the accounting period is going to be same, is going to be same, right? So in that case, it's not a challenge when you are ascertaining the discounting charges. But when the date of maturity falls on a month of the next year, that is the due date falls on two accounting period, problems will arise. So for instance, the due date and the date of date of bill acceptance is in a particular accounting period and the due date falls in the next accounting period, then there would be problems in how to ascertain the discount charges. And in such a situation, proportionate discount should be charged to the profit and loss account. So here what we'll be doing is that, for instance, the date of bill acceptance was, first let us just say, January, let us say 2000, and the due date is April 2000. So if the accounting period is starting April, ending March. So basically this particular bill of discount includes two accounting periods. So the bill when it was accepted was in previous accounting period, and the bill when it is due is the next accounting period. So in such a situation, how we will be treating the bills receivable and payable in the books of account? Proportionate amount of discount will be charged to the profit and loss account in such cases. So here also, now let us take a look at this example also. So this example says a bill was drawn on 1st of November 2013 for rupees 20,000 for 3 months, and the bill was discounted by the bank on the same day at 12% per annum. Therefore, the total amount of the discount will be 20,000 into 12 divided by 100 into 3 by 12. So 2/3 of 600, that is 400, will be transferred to the profit and loss account for the year ending 31st of December 2013. So here the accounting period that we have taken is from January to December. So the bill was discounted by the bank on same day, as it was drawn in on 1st of November and the due date of maturity is 3 months. So 1st November, then December, then January, and then 1st of February 2013. However, it falls in the next accounting period. So basically from January, the next accounting period starts. So the bill was discounted. So therefore, the total amount of discount that we estimated was 20,000 into 12% into 3 by 12, as it is for 3 months. And out of this 600, 400 will be transferred to the profit and loss account as it belongs to the two months that are in the next accounting period. So 400 will thus be transferred to the profit and loss account for the year ended 31st of December. So the proportionate charge that we are talking about is that proportion which does not belong to the current year but the next year. So therefore the next year, the portion of the discount that is belonging to the next accounting period would be charged as a discount charge in the P&L account of that particular year. So taking a look at the treatment of discount in the books of the bank and how such treatment is done. Once the bill is discounted, bill discounted account would be debited and the customer's current account would be credited, and discount on bill account will again be credited. So when the bill is discounted, so this entry is done when the bill is discounted, and when such amount is received from the drawee, cash account is debited and the bill's discounted account is credited. So we covered the entries in the books of account in the case of bills payable and bills receivable, and in the books of drawer and drawee. Now looking at the treatment of discount in the books of the bank in the case of entries that will be passed in the books of drawer and entries that are going to be passed in the books of drawee. So once the bill is drawn, bills receivable account is debited and drawee account is credited, that we've already seen also. And also once in the books of drawee, drawer account is debited and bills payable account is credited. Now further, if such bill is discounted by the bank, then we will be debiting the bank account. Discount account will again be debited and crediting the bills receivable account. So once the bill is discounted, the payment is being done by the bank. So payment so thus cash and bank account is debited off the drawer, and discount is also allowed and charged by the bank. So discount account is again debited as it becomes the expense for that particular drawer to the bills receivable account. So such payment is being made by the bank, so bills receivable account is nullified. And if the bill is honored at the due date, so bills payable account debit to the cash and bank accounts since it is being honored. So once the drawee pays such bill of exchange at the due date itself, so bills payable account would be debited as one fee as it would be settled on the due date, and cash and bank account would be credited because payment has been made by the drawee to the drawer, which would thus be received by the bank as such bill was discounted by the drawer. Now insolvency of drawee. So what happens in the case once the drawee becomes insolvent? So insolvency of acceptor means that he cannot, so insolvency with the word only, the literal interpretation means that the acceptor has refused or cannot pay the amount owed by him, and therefore on insolvency bill will be treated as dishonored. So it would be the same scenario as in the case of dishonor of bill. As in the case of dishonor, it is that the acceptor refuses to make the payment, and in case however the result is that the commitment or the payment that is due to the drawer is not being settled and the drawer does not receive any payment. Here in the case of insolvency also the acceptor, so in the case of dishonor the acceptor refuses. The only difference in insolvency of drawee and in the dishonor of bill is that there in the case of dishonoring of the bill, the drawee himself refuses to accept the commitment that he has made. But in the case of insolvency is that the acceptor is not able to make the payment as the acceptor is no longer financially solvent to make such payment or to make such settlement of the bill of exchange. And however the bill will be treated as dishonored and entries for dishonor will be passed in the books of respective parties. Since the effect is going to be same, so the dishonor of the bill treatment would be followed in the case of insolvency of drawee also, and the entries that we pass in the case of dishonor of bill will be passed in the books of respective parties. And later on, if in case some amount is realized from the property or estate of the insolvent acceptor, entry for cash received is passed and the balance of the amount due from the insolvent is treated as bad debt. So however, if in a case it happens that on insolvency, if the settlement of dues is happening and out of such settlement the drawer also receives some amount or some realization of its property or estate, then the entry for cash received would be passed and the balance which remains for the bill of exchange, which is not settled, would be treated as bad debts. So this is important for you to understand, as this is so the treatment might be same in the case of the accounting treatment, or accounting entries might be same in the case of dishonor of will and insolvency. However, once the payment is realized, what is to be done with the remaining amount which has not been paid by the acceptor, this needs to be taken care of and to be kept in mind that the remaining amount would be calculated or ascertained as bad debts in the books of the drawer. And in the books of acceptor, the amount not paid is transferred to the deficiency account or profit and loss account. Normally, the amount paid by the insolvent is expressed as percentage of the amount due and is called the rate of dividend. So in the above two paragraphs we talked about the accounting treatment in the books of drawer. In the books of acceptor, such amount would be transferred to the deficiency account, or more so like the profit and loss account. So whatever is not being paid would be transferred to the profit and loss account, and normally such amount paid by the insolvent person is expressed as percentage of the amount due and is called the rate of the dividend. So let us take an example to understand this particular concept. So now in this particular illustration, Mr. A, 25,000 is payable by A to Mr. B. So Mr. B is the holder and Mr. A being the acceptor. So the journal entry in the books of Mr. B when Mr. A is declared insolvent. So in the books of Mr. B, if we see how the settlement entry of on insolvency of Mr. A would be done. So we have been given a dividend of 20%. So out of this 25,000, 20% would be received by Mr. B. So we would be, so cash account, so cash received would be debited. That is the 20% of 25,000, which amounts to 5,000. And the remaining, which would not be paid, as in 25,000 minus 5,000, that is the 20,000 which won't be paid, would be treated as bad debts in the books of Mr. B. So 20,000 and to Mr. A's account, that is the drawee's account, right? Now in the books of drawee, that is in the books of Mr. A, that is the drawee. Here it is the drawer, Mr. B being the drawer, Mr. A being the drawee. Now as we studied that the amount which is not being settled would be transferred to the deficiency account. As we saw, the 20% is paid, so cash account would be credited to cash account, that is the 5,000, and then to deficiency. So the remaining amount which has been treated in the books of so the remaining amount which has been treated in the books of Mr. B as bad debts, here it would be transferred to the deficiency account and the amount is 20,000. So in the books of business, so we would be debiting Mr. B's account with debit 25,000. So this is how we would be passing on the entries in the books of the drawer and drawee in case of insolvency. So what you have to pay attention to is, while you are solving a particular question, is how much amount is being paid, if at all there is any sum that is being paid to the drawer in case of insolvency of a particular drawee, and if not, then all the amount, if there is no payment that is made on the end of the drawee, then the all such amount would be transferred to the debit to the bad debts account in case of the drawer, and in the deficiency account in the books of the drawee. So thus, in the case of insolvency, it is better to prepare an acceptor's account first in order to work out how much is the total amount that is finally owed by him, and after ascertaining the final amount owed by the acceptor, it is then we calculate the cash received on the account of dividend declared, as we did in this case. So this was the amount that was payable. After this, we ascertain the 20% of 25,000, that is the 5,000, which is the amount that would be paid on account of the dividend that is declared, and the remaining would thus be treated as bad debts in the books of the holder and transferred to the deficiency account in the books of the acceptor. So moving on, let us take a look at operating cycle of an accommodation bill, as to how such bill generates and how do we make the treatment of the accommodation bill in the books of accounts. So the basis of the bill is not a trade transaction but mutual benefit shall be considered as the basis for drawing an accommodation bill, and it is thus drawn in order to accommodate the financial requirements of a drawer or even a drawee. So it could be either a drawer or drawee, or it could be both, the financial requirements of both of them, on which such basis of accommodation on which due to which such accommodation of bill is generated. And so this transaction presupposes, so it is essential in this, in particularly in the case of accommodation bill, it is important that both the parties trust and understand each other, and thus understand. So understanding means the understanding the need of the financial requirements of each other, so that in the case wherein a drawer is in need of a particular financial requirement, the drawee is able to help, and thus vice versa can also be done. So the basis for accommodation of bill, as we said, is mutual benefit, and two parties coming together for a mutual benefit should be able to understand and trust each other, and on the basis of that only accommodation of bill can be generated. The fundamental of such accommodation bill as to how to generate quick cash or immediate cash so as to fulfill the financial requirement of a drawer or even a drawee, or both of them at the same time, is that the drawer would be normally discounting this bill with the bank, and thus the bank will further, after charging a particular charge, that is a discount on that particular bill, would be paying back the remaining amount to the drawer, and thus that particular amount would then be segregated between the drawer and the drawee according to their financial requirement. So the amount received from the bank is either retained by the drawer for himself or shared between the drawer and the drawee. So that again depends on the agreement that happened while they were entering into the accommodation bill. And on the date of maturity, so on it, the principle will again follow the same. In the case of a trade bill, here also on the date of maturity, the drawee settles the bill with bank by effecting the payment, and the drawer will thus pay the drawee either full amount of the bill or the share, and accounting entries that would be passed on would be as follows. So in the case of drawing of a bill, Bills receivable account is going to be debited and drawee account will be credited. Again, in the drawee's books, drawer account is going to be debited and bills payable account is going to be credited. So it is the same entry that is generally passed in the books of accounts, and in the case of accommodation bill also we would be passing the same entry, that is bills receivable account is going to be debited and bills payable account is going to be credited. Since the bill is drawn in the favor of the drawee and the drawer, so therefore we would be directly debiting and crediting the account of the drawee in the books of drawers, debiting the account of drawer in the books of drawee. And once we discount such bill, then the entry won't be passed in the drawee's books, as the drawer is discounting the bill with the bank and not the drawee. So because it is not concerned with the drawee's books, so therefore there won't be any entry in the drawee's books. In the entry in the drawer's books would be bank account is going to be debited, as the payment would be received from the bank which is discounting the particular bill, and bills receivable account is going to be credited as the immediate payment has been done. So bills receivable is being settled by the bank which is discounting the particular bill, and because they are charging a certain amount, so that amount becomes the expense of the drawer, so discount account being debited. So bank account, the payment which is being received on discounting of the bill, then the discount charges that are being levied by the bank, and to bills receivable account, which is the bill being paid off or settled by the bank. Then payment on due date. So the payment, once the due date arises, the payment will be done by the drawee and the bank account would be credited. And here in the case of the drawee's books, bills payable account is going to be debited and bank account is going to be credited. All right. So now with this we complete the conceptual part of the bills of exchange, and we would be solving the illustrations that are there in your study material. So the reason behind why we solve the illustrations is that after going through the conceptual part, it is important that you retain such concepts in your mind, and by practicing of such questions you will be able to easily retain the concepts that are done in the lecture.